Welcome back to the Evolution of the Soul podcast and videos. My name is Cheryl Arts from Willow Roots. And today I'm going to talk about the energy, the emotions, the words, the thoughts that people place on us. And I want to start this conversation by talking about how powerful we are. We're not taught this. But we're very powerful beings. We're very powerful creator beings. And what we say and what we think about, and even the things we process, our thoughts, they're very powerful and they lead to manifestation. And so we create what we think about, we create what we talk about. And so when we understand this, like truly understand that, you get very careful with your words and your thoughts. And you realize that there's potency to what you say and how you say it. And, there's even energy behind what you say. So, we need to really be aware of this. And I think we're at a time now. So we're almost in the middle of 2025. Where we're manifesting things quicker. There's a quickening happening. And there used to be more of a lag between, our thoughts and then things, manifesting. And I feel like there's a quickening happening. And so again, we have to be very careful with our thoughts. And so it's one thing, about our own thoughts. So the things that we think about ourselves and we say about ourselves, that's one thing that, I want you to think about. But today I'm actually going to talk about what we think about others and what we say about others and what energy we hold around them. And so I titled this video and this podcast, The Scarlett Letter, because the first time I kind of became aware of this was a young woman who came to see me about 5 or 6 years ago. And she was, I think she was like in her mid 30s or early 30s. And she wanted to get pregnant. And she'd had a pregnancy. She had a teen pregnancy. And so when I was doing energy healing with her to help her get into a space to have a second child, we found that she had this Scarlett Letter placed on her. And so if you understand the story of the Scarlett Letter, right, there's, this symbolism that was placed on women if they got pregnant or had sex early, or, I can't remember the full story, but it was like she had this big, big letter written in red on her. And it was this symbolism of shame and, disrespect or whatever was placed on her for that. And so in that healing process, we removed that energy, we removed that Scarlett Letter. And, I'm happy to report that since that time, I think I saw her one more time. And she has since got pregnant and had a little one. And so I'm not saying that was the whole piece. I'm sure there was pieces that she had to work through, but it was a big piece. And so this shame, I think shame was the biggest energy around it, was placed on her. And before she could move forward and get pregnant again, she had to release it. So this is kind of the first time I saw this. The next time I saw it was in my own healing. And so I've shared multiple times about my healing. And I ultimately healed my concussion on the Nile. And so I spent 2 days physically purging. And so I was throwing up on the Nile for 2 days. And, throughout my journey, I would connect with my husband, and I really couldn't connect. I was just way too ill and way too sick. And when I finally connected with my husband, he was telling me that he was actually throwing up at the exact same time I was. So he was in Florida with the kids, and he was sick in bed. And what I got from that was that we were both purging. So he was purging who I had become within that illness. So he was helping letting go of all the energy around my concussion that's been held. So not only I was releasing it, but he was releasing it. And, from there, I really started to understand that There's people and energy that can hold you in a certain space. So that was another instance. Then in 2019, so that was 2018, March of 2018. In 2019, I had a relapse, a pretty significant relapse that happened very suddenly. So I had an accident. I was on the ice with my daughter's ringette team. A girl lost her edge, had my back to her, and she ended up sliding very fast. So these 16-year-old girls, they're going fast, and took out my feet. So I didn't see it coming. I flew into the air, fell back on my back, and of course, snapped my neck back. And this team of girls had seen me for 4 years go through concussion, heal the concussion. And, I could sense that this was really upsetting for them to witness. So I could barely get off the ice. I had to lay there for a few moments. My 16-year-old, who, we've had some different struggles, especially at that time, was crying, like she was bawling because she knew where that was going to take me. The first time I hit my head on the ice, it was a gentle hit, and it took me 2.5 years. And then this time, so, the girls understood that magnitude. So I had a whole ringette team witnessing what happened. And so luckily my daughter was able to take me home that night. And in the middle of the night, I ended up having to go to the emergency room. I was just in so much pain. I couldn't move. And so I was given some pain medication and just to relax the body because the body starts to protect. So I was like so tight. And so I was given something then. And luckily, it was a Friday evening. So luckily the next day there was a healing circle that my teacher held. And so I attended that and I just started bawling. We shared at the beginning of hearing circle and I started bawling. I'm like, I can't do this again. I can't go through what I've been through. I was like, no, like we're not doing this. And so I received healing from so many people. I think there was like at least 8 different people there, different women. I even had one woman underneath the table and other people in the circle holding space. But so what happened from that healing was I ended up having to pull back the energy from everyone who witnessed my accident. All the girls, because if you can imagine, they would go home that night and say, "Hey, mom, you wouldn't believe what happened to Cheryl." And that story would get told and might get told, and she's probably going to be back to where she was. And so there's this energy that started to ripple out, and I had to get my arms around it, pull it back in, and heal it. I had to heal it, and I had to heal it instantly. And so that was like another realization of how the energy and the power of how we can share stories or things that we share can ripple out and affect those who we speak about without really knowing that that is what is happening. So from that space, I was able to pull it all back in. That was on a Saturday. On Sunday, I think it was it was in December. We had a Christmas event. I was taking my pain pills, still not feeling well. And I actually had to drive to Toronto that evening because I was getting on a flight to go to Hawaii for an incredible retreat. And I was like, I am going to be okay. And so that Monday morning, got up, took my shuttle to the airport, took an naproxen, a pain pill, and that was the last one I took. I was 100% fine, completely healed. So it took the weekend to process that, a couple 24 to 48 hours after the healing circle. So, the power of people witnessing. I've had another client who was in a very terrible car accident, and her husband came on the scene. And when we did healing work with her, again, pulling back the energy of what he witnessed, because that was affecting her healing. So it's not about taking away the truth, but it's taking away the energy and the essence of the trauma, of the injury, of the discomfort or whatever's happening, but really bringing it back in and pulling it back in so that it can be healed. so that it doesn't keep going out there. And, so it's really powerful to understand this concept. And I don't think I don't think it affects everyone, but there's a reason why it's been shown to me, and it's a reason why I'm sharing it today, because I think it's really important. So when we're talking about people, we need to be very clear on how we can manifest, or we can continue to manifest maybe what's not wanted. So I know I have people in my life that will call me and say, "Oh, did you hear about so and so? They have cancer." And this devastating voice. And yes, it's upsetting, and they're allowed to have that upset energy. But, what do we keep? If we talk about it, we tell our friends, and we see these people, and we share to say, "Hey, hey, did you hear? Blah, 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 blah." So there's a way to do it without creating maybe what they don't want. And so in the example of cancer, it could be, "Oh, did you hear so and so has been diagnosed? I'm just going to send them lots of love and blessings, that they find their healing. And I hope, that they can be surrounded by light," or something to that effect. Instead of, so see the energy around that versus, "Oh my God, like, they've got cancer. I don't know how they've only been given like a year and a half. And God, poor so and so." And so there's like this heavy and dark energy when we share it a certain way. So we need to be very clear about how we hold people. And this goes back to like, everyone is constantly changing. So if you think about, I'm just going to use the example of high school. So I'm just about to turn 50 in a year and a bit. I'm just about to step into my 50th year. And so if I was to think about certain people from high school, which I haven't seen for, gosh, some of them probably for over 30 years, and I think about them in the light that they were in that time period, I can hold them in that essence, even though they're a completely different person. So my thought and my mind can keep them held in a certain space, right? So these are just some things to think about, I think, but for me, in a space of offering energy healing and different kind of healing in different way, it's a really key awareness around healing processes. And so if you're going through your own healing and you sense that this may be something, this may be a piece of your healing that needs to be maybe looked at. And so energy healers can dive into that. Certain people, I know with alchemical healing, we can go into the past, we can go into past lives, so we can go back and heal that. And this even goes back, this is a different discussion, but I'll just add that certain things that were placed on our grandparents and our ancestors, if it wasn't healed, then that energy keeps moving forward. And I believe we're at a time and space, our generations are the ones that are healing those ancestral lines, that we're putting a stop to it. But it's something to be aware of, that even if it hasn't been placed on you personally, it could have been placed on your parents. It could have been placed on your grandparents. It could have been placed on ... whatever kind of energy that was. Right. And it's even like, when we talk about in the medical system, they talk about genetic predispositions to different things, that I believe it's possible, but I believe it's an energy. I believe it's an energy. And so, and again, it's, belief. If your great grandmother, your grandmother, and your mother all had breast cancer, they're going to be like, "Hey, it's inevitable," kind of thing. And so they're placing that on you. They're placing that on you, but you don't have to accept that. You don't have to accept that. You can clear that from your energy field. But if you have it in your mind and it continually runs through, then guess what you're going to manifest? Guess what you're going to manifest? So, we need to get really clear on these scarlet letters that we place, maybe we even place it on ourselves based on what we know of our genetic predisposition, or what our doctors say, or just, the thoughts that other people place on us, right? I know that in my family, there's someone in my family that was told that they would never amount to anything. And that person could have taken that to heart and not. But they actually used that, they reversed it and became something amazing, started a business and became very successful. So you don't have to own the things that people place on us, but you have to realize that there could be that energy there. So taking a look at that, making sure that's cleared, and then we need to make sure that we are responsible not to do that on others. Right? And again, we're super powerful people. Our words and our thoughts are very, very powerful. So we need to be very clean and clear with what our intentions are and what we're sharing with the world. So I hope this video was helpful. I think, it was a really powerful understanding for me. And it's something that I work with clients if that seems to pop up. Definitely ancestral healing is a big part of the work that I do here. And I've done a lot of that for myself. And I'll give you one example of what I've done. So I tried to heal kind of alcoholism within my family. So going back generations and generations and healing underneath what's that. And it's been this energy that's kind of been, brought forward. It hasn't necessarily been placed on me, but it's been brought forward and very much. And so that's something that I've wanted to heal to the point where I now have two teenage children, one in her early 20s, that do not drink. And myself, just recently, I just quit drinking as well in the last 8 weeks. So, I've really been able to heal that from my family. And I'm trying to invite it to like my, extended family, my brother's families, and those families too. But, I've tried to really try to stop that and heal that. So, again, hopefully this video was helpful. If you've got questions, you can reach out to me. My website is willroots.net, and there's ways to connect with me there. And yeah, and hopefully you're enjoying these videos and these podcasts, and we'll see you soon.